Hey guys, I'm Rick, and as you know, each week I try to bring you newsletters, videos, anything to help with the process. I know John and Leslie also contribute to that. But in an effort to even bring more content, I've invited another one of our therapists, a trauma expert, Wayne Baker, to explain ways that we help couples in crisis to even understand the trauma process, because you're going to find that's one of the most challenging aspects of recovery. So I want to thank you, Wayne, for coming today. It's really great to have you here. So as somebody who specializes in trauma, what are some of the signs, factors that you see with people at the EMS weekend where trauma plays out and it impacts them?
Well, what I see across the board with betrayed and the unfaithful spouses is it can be everything. You get some people that show up that are just so shell-shocked and numb, or you get the ones that are hysterical and flooding and can't stay out of these intrusive thoughts that they have. You get the ones that are just, they want to know every single detail, and then you get the other ones that are burying their head in the sand. And so it's all over the board.
As you know, Wayne, going through infidelity is brutal. What are some of the roadblocks that couples encounter as they're dealing with trauma?
Well, I think one of the biggest roadblocks, especially in the early stages of the infidelity, is that the truth ekes out over time. I'm working with a case right now who the truth has eked out over 3 years.
Wow.
And a huge development just even this morning came out to be. I think that is one of the biggest roadblocks, is that the betrayed spouse may know that there's more there, but they don't have any evidence, so they start snooping and looking and checking everything, and it just makes everybody crazy. The biggest roadblock to me is if the truth comes out early. That's the biggest remover. And just being able to sit and listen to the betrayed spouse's questions.
So in this situation just today, when this person got more information 3 years later, how does that impact the trauma that they're trying to work through?
It sends them to a place they've never been, and I suspect it, as you and I both know, it triggers stuff even before they were ever married, because a lot of these folks they're traumatized as children, whether developmentally or
right,
abusively or something like that. So it's hitting on all of that at once, and the flooding is through the roof.
So when more information comes out, and you and I both know at the EMS weekend that happens, what's the impact on the person that's already dealing with trauma, just physiologically? What ends up happening with them?
Well, they go into fight, flight, or freeze. And a lot of time, well, it can be all of that at once, too. The emotional part of the brain, the amygdala and the limbic system take over, and they're not even thinking with their rational mind, and lots of things get said. They are traumatized, just like it's PTSD, almost like somebody coming back from war. That's what it feels like to them.
And so now any type of trigger then sends them
yeah.
all the way back to the initial discovery? Or
yeah, well, it sends them even further back, because had the truth come out 3 years ago, they would have dealt with it. They would have come to EMS, dealt with their trauma healthily with our support and help, because I think it's the process of EMS that gives structure to healing. I mean, you and I both know people that try to do this for years on their own.
Right.
And it doesn't work. My record is a couple that tried to do it for 32 years on their own. And he had a triggering event, and man, he was right back at the very beginning 30-something years ago, and I had to walk him through the same process. So if they just deal with it, you'd be surprised. I say all the time that we can get people through infidelity. We can do it absolutely. Excuse me, I know you're I think your stats show 85% or more, but I think it's probably even a little bit better.
So as you know, it's really common, we see this all the time, when couples come to the weekend, they have no idea whether they can make it. In fact, a lot of them are thinking, there is
Most of
no
them don't,
way
yeah.
that we're going to be able to do this, that's totally normal. What are some of the signs that you see when we're dealing with these traumatized couples that let you know there's a possibility they actually can make it?
Well, I think I start, having done this for so long and in my own experience, that I don't really listen to the resistance much anymore. I just don't give them an option. You have to go. Because even if they're on the fence about whether they want the marriage, I mean, just 2 EMSs ago, there was a guy that was very much on the fence. And by Sunday afternoon, neither one of them were on the fence, and they were committed and recommitting. Now, they still had a lot of work to do, but the structure and the process, particularly the empathy, development, and communication, that was the thing that let her know she was able to stay in this marriage with this guy who had cheated on her 3 times. Or had been unfaithful with her 3 times. But this is the time, and that was also the time he really got it. He really got what his actions had cost her. I'm going to get emotional now. It was why we do what we do. The impact that the empathy, development, and communication, and this is what I think about is most people have empathy in them. They don't know how to do it. You know, there's some that don't, and we spend a lot of time with them, but helping the unfaithful spouse communicate empathy so that the betrayed spouse gets that they get it. Hands down, that's the thing. That helps soothe that trauma.
Right. It's that attunement you talk about, where suddenly if they can be attuned, it gives them a new resource, a place where, as you've said, it brings about it lets them come back up here and they don't have to stay back in that reptilian brain anymore.
Right. Who's going to eat me?
Exactly right.
Or where's my next meal?
So yeah, I know that that's probably one of the most effective things that I see happen is the empathy, because that's huge. And I do agree, that really helps with the trauma, healing that trauma and allowing people to get back connected with themselves. As someone that has specialized in trauma for a long time, having been doing this since 2006, and we've really learned that I know trauma is one of the biggest aspects that people go through. It's one of the biggest barriers, you just said. What is it about the weekend and handling trauma that you think is more beneficial, potentially, even than trying to do things by themselves or maybe even in normal therapy situations?
Yeah, I think the weekend, what it provides is a container, because we all have been doing this a long time and we expect flooding. And the container that you set and your staff sets, the therapist set, can hold whatever comes up. And I think that, so in that, where one couple comes in and they see another couple dealing with something very similar, number one, they feel like they're not alone.
Right.
There are other people going through this. And it doesn't negate that they might most likely need to do some of their own individual work too. But I love the weekend because it's that container that you set, plus the information is really good. The content's awesome. But it just sets that container so that they can begin to do some work and begin to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it gives them hope. And I think that's one of the biggest things. And it's, if I could go back, Friday morning, everybody comes in shell-shocked. Everybody, we see it, it's like, where's the door? Where's the nearest exit? And then by Sunday morning, the atmosphere is so different.
Yeah, one of the things I know that we've noticed through the years, and I think this is a place where we've learned to grow because we've just done a lot of couples by this point, is that need to help the person who's across from the one who's really dealing with that post-traumatic stress to know how to respond. Because I do think, and I don't know if you have anything to add to this, when they don't get flooding, when they don't understand why their mate continues to act this way, they don't know how to support, and it drives, it just creates a further rift. But when they can be on the same page, I think knowing how to deal with the trauma, that's really huge. And I know that you do some things for couples together just to begin to have empathy. What have you kind of seen about that?
Well, you got to slow down. And you have to get with them and make them slow down. Because I had this mantra that slowing down is going fast. And because they begin to make some progress. And, a couple tools that I use are internal family systems, which is a model of therapy that takes the whole principle of family therapy but applies it to this system of parts or different emotions and feelings that we all have. Carl Jung talked about this, that we have a true self,
right,
and that everything else is a part. And you get people, give them language to speak for all the parts, but they're speaking for a part instead of from it. They're not blended with it. So if you can get them to slow down and begin to do that, they make a lot of progress quickly. And I know you do brain spotting, and several of us do EMDR, and even all of that with a couple in the room is so helpful to soothing the brain, soothing the nervous system. Anxiety starts to diminish.
Yeah, deactivating what's going on inside of them.
And they can connect. And
right.
It's you see it, it's a right brain to right brain connection. That's when it really starts to shift. It's pretty amazing to watch. You get to be have a front row seat with a lot of this.
Yeah, a lot of
couples.
couples. And I do see the weekend being really effective at beginning that process for those couples, because otherwise they can spend years going to individual therapy, not knowing how to come together and relate and begin to deal with the trauma. So I do think it's a crucial first step.
Totally. I'm going to tell couples all the time that weekend, it's worth the money at twice the price, and because it gets them 6 months down the road in 3 days. It can, maybe it's 3 months, but maybe it's 6 months. It gets them down the road.
You bet.
So it's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing that and just helping us to expand maybe some of the pieces we're offering to couples, because I know that's helpful since so many of the couples are dealing with that. So again, really appreciate you coming in. Good.